It's well known that Shaykh Albani and him had a lot of back and forth when it comes to knowledge-based refutation. And so from those debates that became famous is the debate on, is the niqab obligatory or is it mustahab? للأسف الشديد, how many people are in need of this lesson in today's world? Now, two people have a differing in an affair that is far'i, that is a mas'ala fiqhiyya, nothing to do with aqidah and creed and belief. Mas'ala fiqhiyya, because of it, mazzaqat al-ummah, that a whole nation, a whole country, a whole group of Muslims are split because of a mas'ala fiqhiyya, and this occurs a lot. And the ulama are the warathat al-anbiya, they inherited from the prophets, so they follow suit in that regard. So it is mentioned that some of the Salaf, they would say when a person starts to seek knowledge, you will see the effects of him seeking knowledge in the way he walks, in the way he talks, in the way he carries himself. You see the effect of that. That's the thamara of knowledge. The uncle that was sitting with us has said to us, sorry to interrupt, who do you guys think this is? We said, this is Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. He said, جزاكم الله خير. I know Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. This is not Shaykh Abdullah. This is
في الإسلام قولا لا أسأل عنه أحدا غيرك قال قل آمنت بالله ثم استقم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته أستاذ.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alhamdulillah, we've managed to complete the Twitter thread that you started a few years ago. Alhamdulillah, we briefly touched on some of the scholars that you mentioned, some that are still alive and some that passed away. May Allah have mercy upon them all. And inshallah, we hope to continue in this path of directing the people to the scholars, where we get the opportunity to talk about some of the scholars that are alive today, which helps the question that many people get asked: who do I take knowledge from? Who is alive today? Inshallah. So is it okay if we go ahead and begin, Shaykh?
Bismillah.
Barakallah feek, Ustad. So, inshallah, the Shaykh that we want to touch on and begin with is Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree.
Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Shaykh Abdullah ibn al-Shaykh al-Allama Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree. He's the son of the famous great scholar Shaykh Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree. Now, a little bit about his father before we speak about his son. Shaykh Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree was from the teacher of the teachers. A lot of the teachers that are alive today, he was a teacher of those ones that are alive today. He lived in the lands of Riyadh, and he's famous for his, first of all, kutub that he authored and he wrote. From the most famous amongst them is those kitabat between him and Shaykh Albani. That it's well known that Shaykh Albani and him had a lot of back and forth when it comes to knowledge-based refutation. And so from those debates that became famous is the debate on, is the niqab obligatory or is it mustahab? Shaykh Hamoud was arguing that it is obligatory, and Shaykh Albani was arguing that it is mustahab, that it is recommended. And this is from the munaqashat التي دارت في الأمة الإسلامية, that became well known and widespread. But even with those refutations going back and forth, and sometimes there was harshness usage in the language, Shaykh Albani and when Shaykh Hamoud would meet in person, there was only love and harmony shown between them. Which shows us that we can differ in affairs of fiqh, in affairs of the branches and the furu', not in aqidah, in those other things, and we can still be brothers and get along and have harmony between us. للأسف الشديد, how many people are in need of this lesson in today's world? Now, two people have a differing in an affair that is far'i, that is a mas'ala fiqhiyya. It's nothing to do with aqidah and creed and belief. Mas'ala fiqhiyya. And because of it, mazzaqat al-ummah, that a whole nation, a whole country, a whole group of Muslims are split because of a mas'ala fiqhiyya. And this occurs a lot. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide us and to give us basira and to allow us to have that tolerance where there is a need for tolerance. His son is Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree. Shaykh Abdullah is famous for doing رحلة لطلب العلم في وقت مبكر, that he traveled for knowledge at a young age, that he traveled to India, he traveled to other lands, and he sought knowledge of hadith, and he got the high asanid from a young age. And so he's from a reference from those people that you go back to in these affairs of hadith and isnad, a chains of narration going back to the main books of hadith, that you find many of the scholars today that are probably the same age as Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud, they will go to Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud to take hadith and isnad from him. From the tara'if, to show that is, one time we traveled to one of the mashayikh, Shaykh Khalid al-Mushayqih al-Faqih, the great student of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, rahmatan wasi'ah. And we went to a dawrah and he was teaching Akhs al-Mukhtasarat. He's an expert in fiqh and perhaps we'll talk about him in the future halqa. We got a isnad for the book that we studied with him, but his isnad was going back to another sheikh in Medina, and that sheikh was taking it from Shaykh al-Tuwayjiree. And so if we look at the chain, Shaykh Abdullah ibn Hamoud is at the level of the teachers of Shaykh Khalid Mushayqih when it comes to the chain. Because he had the chain directly from his father and from other scholars of hadith from around the world.
So when you're talking about isnad, just so I can try and understand it, his son, he did travel to India like you mentioned, and he's got ijazat, and at this moment in time, is his father still alive?
Good question. Shaykh Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree is min al-ulama al-qudama. He passed away many years ago.
Okay.
He's the same tabaqa and
At the time Shaykh Albani you mentioned.
Shaykh Albani, Shaykh bin Uthaymeen, Shaykh bin Baz, all those mashayikh that died in the 90s or early 2000s.
Okay.
So his son is still alive. He looks around in his 60s. So because of all this I've heard about Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud, I really wanted to meet the Shaykh and benefit from his knowledge. And so me and Shaykh Abdurrahman Sulaiman, we traveled with a group of brothers to Riyadh. And we were searching for Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud to read to him and to attain the isnad that he has. So it's a funny story that we got his location that he previously used to pray at, and or last known masjid that he used to pray at. But we didn't know how he looked like. So we went to this masjid at Asr time or Maghrib, and I'm with a group of brothers. And to try and see how we're going to figure out how he looks like, I googled his name. Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud al-Tuwayjiree.
Makes sense.
And so a sheikh popped up. We had a look at his face. Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. Okay, that must be him. Okay, bismillah. Let's go. We went. We're looking for a sheikh with a grey beard. We're coming to the masjid. Nice masjid. There's not many people there. There's a person in a wheelchair. We think, okay, that could be the sheikh because he traveled when he was young. He's old school. Maybe he's in a wheelchair now. Maybe he's reached this age. We don't know. And we've sat down and we said, let's not make any movements until we get some indications that perhaps this is the sheikh.
If people come to greet him, maybe give him salam, kiss him on the head.
That's what we're looking for. Okay. So we see that the person that's got the oud, the unsi, the nice smelling fragrance that you put in the massages, is walking around with it. The first person he comes to is this person.
Was it the sheikh in the wheelchair?
Sheikh in the wheelchair.
Okay, so that was like
so
maybe it's him.
Like, that's a good sign. Okay, bismillah.
He has to smell the nicest.
He's the first one to, out of respect for the sheikh and the likes.
Yeah, Allah.
Then sheikh is busy with reciting Quran. This is from another good tick because ulama, they are busy in reciting Quran, benefiting from their
you guys
waqt.
are scanning everything you can scan
everything
here.
that
You're
we
looking
can,
at
trying to tick off boxes.
how people treat him.
The samt, how he carries himself, how the people treat, all of it we're looking at.
Can I just touch on how you can, this is something that you can spot whether someone's a scholar as well.
Nah.
It's not just from, what they're preaching and so on, even if somebody's sitting somewhere in a corner.
Sah.
Can you just touch on how maybe...
Sahih. So the scholar should be a living example of that which we find in the Quran and the Sunnah. The Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said, when she was asked about the khuluq, the manners of the Prophet ﷺ, she said, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. His manners were the Quran. In summary, what does that mean? That means everything the Quran came with, he did. From commandments, fulfilling them, from staying away from prohibitions, from akhlaq, all of the things that you could think of, his khuluq was the Quran in one sentence. And the ulama are the warathat al-anbiya, they inherited from the prophets. So they follow suit in that regard. So it is mentioned that some of the Salaf, they would say when a person starts to seek knowledge, you will see the effects of him seeking knowledge in the way he walks, in the way he talks, in the way he carries himself. You see the effect of that. That's the thamara of knowledge. We find the story from the contemporary scholars, Shaykh Abdurrahman Nasr al-Sa'di, this teacher of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, and a Shaykh called Shaykh Muhammad Hassan al-Banna. We mentioned his brother's name before, Shaykh Muhammad Hassan, Shaykh Muhammad Marzuq al-Banna, Abdul Wahab Marzuq al-Banna. One time he was in Tawaf and he heard Shaykh Abdurrahman Sa'di might be in Mecca.
He was in Mecca doing tawaf.
He was Mecca doing tawaf, and I think he heard that he's going to be in the city or something. But he was walking around the tawaf, and he saw a man following the sunnah in how to do tawaf, in how to walk quickly, in having the hand here, the way he carried himself, everything that he saw about him. He went to him and he said, "Are you Shaykh Abdurrahman Nasir al-Sa'di?" He said, "Yes." He goes, "How did you know?"
SubhanAllah.
Just from the way he saw, from the mu'amala and the way he is carrying himself, he said, "This person has to be a scholar." So you still see that a lot. So we were scanning for these things for the Shaykh.
I'm wondering at the moment, could it be him in the wheelchair?
Still,
could it be someone else?
Still 50-50, but we got good indications.
Yeah. Just from our own imagination, was he the only person that, if you remember, of course?
That was fitting the description.
Yeah.
So far, yes.
Okay, we're looking to each other.
Okay, so Salah has come in. They've prayed the Salah. After the Salah, he's got someone helping him, yakhtimuhu, in service of him. That's half. Yani, the ulama get service too. But at the same time, there's an old person in a wheelchair. So there's someone servicing. So we said, okay, let's just try. Bismillah. We've got this many ticks. I can't remember if there was any other signs that I saw, but we felt like 90% chance this is him, inshallah. By the way, the biggest sign was he looked like him.
Okay.
He looked like him.
Okay. Grey beard, old man. He looked very close to the picture that we saw. So I've gone up to the Shaykh and they are, he's being escorted out. So I told him, "Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh." He tells the person pulling his wheelchair, pushing it, "Stop." And even the way he says stop, we've seen this before. You recognize it from maybe other sheikhs.
Then he goes, "Naam, tfaddal." This is another sign that he spoke. He said, "Shaykh, we want to speak. I said, Shaykh, we want to read to you the atraf of Kutub al-Hadith. We want to read to you the first hadith of the 6 canonical books of hadith." And so he said, "Tfaddal, go ahead." So he told the guy, "Stop, we're going to sit for a second." We're like, "Alhamdulillah, it's the right Shaykh, Alhamdulillah, we got him." And Shaykh Abdurrahman was checking at the back, and we told him we found a Shaykh. Come. So he came, he sat down. I got the book out, I started reading the first hadith of Bukhari, the first hadith with its chain. First hadith of Muslim, Abi Dawood, Tirmidhi.
And what is this called when you do? You said at the beginning.
This is because you don't have time to read the whole book. At least you read and hear some of the book upon the Shaykh, and the rest of it he gives you as ijazah. This is something that you can still get the chain by way of, if you don't have time to read the whole book on a Shaykh, like a one-time visit, where visitors into the city.
So does that mean that just because you've read the first hadith in that book,
you can say now, I have read to the Shaykh a portion of the book?
Okay. Generally speaking, when it comes to ijazat, is the chain the same? Like the chain, let's say there's, I don't know, 500 hadiths in a book.
Yeah.
The Shaykh that has that ijazah, for all 500 hadiths, does he have the same ijazah for it?
It's the same chain, but the effect is in how the sirah that you took it in, the format that you took it in, and later on how you're going to give it out.
Okay.
Someone might ask you, "Did you hear the whole book from the Shaykh?" The answer is no, I didn't. How much did he hear? I only heard one hadith. And he gave me ijazah, permission to narrate the rest. And so the chain is correct. You can continue narrating.
Okay.
Let's say when you get older, people take from you, yasih al-isnad. That continues. There's that connection. What's better is to read the whole thing.
Of course. But that's why, time, like you mentioned.
That's why we have the isnad of Ahl al-Hind that goes through Nadir Hussain. Nadir Hussain and his students, this ijazah is considered valuable because a lot of those people in those tabaqat, they heard it sama'an wa qira'atan. He would read and study the whole book with his students, and they would do the same with their students, and they would do the same with their students. That's why it's got some value, extra value with that chain. واضح? But there are other chains that could be considered from Ahl al-Sham and other places that are shorter. But in those chains, many a time, they didn't read the whole book. It's just ijazah, no reading, or maybe reading 1 or 2 or 3 and the rest ijazah.
Okay.
Whereas in India, at one time, they would give a lot of ihtimam, and it continues till today, that they will read the book. And it was part of the university program that you learn this book in this year, and you end up with Bukhari, you finish with Bukhari. If you get to Bukhari, that's the highest level. And when you graduate from school, you've got an ijazah from the highest sheikh that is teaching you. Because each book, there's a certain scholar that teaches that book. And no one can get the kursi, if you like, of Imam Bukhari or teaching the book of Bukhari except the scholar that is mutamakkin, firmly grounded in hadith.
Okay.
So if you reach Bukhari, this is usually a high level sheikh, and he probably has a nice, good isnad. And you graduate, you will get his isnad for that.
So at this point
in India,
yeah,
back in the day, they would sit 6 days a week from Fajr till Dhuhr every day except for Friday. This is how they were able to finish it.
So at this point, you got the brother.
At the point, we can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
So we just want to get, at least the sheikh has a lot of asanid and he's got high. At least we have the sharaf of being connected to that isnad, even if it's not complete. Perhaps in the future we can complete. Well, that's the fikrah.
That makes sense. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. So now I've read hadith number 1, hadith number 2. Hadith number 2 was hadith of hadith Jibreel. The first hadith in Sahih Muslim is hadith of Jibreel. So we read it and it's like, Allahu Akbar. And he's doing commentaries like, look, this is happening already today. Allahu Musta'an. So we're like, Allahu Akbar. It's continuing the simat of a sheikh. We've read the whole book. By the way, some way along the book, whilst we're reading the book, a Saudi uncle, he's like in his 40s, 50s, saw us sitting, and he just came and he took a chair and he sat with us and he listened to the hadith. When we finished, he said, Jazakumullah khair for reading. And we were like, may Allah reward you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair for letting us read upon you. Hal ajastana? Do you give us ijazah? He says, huh? I said, Shaykh, maybe you never heard me. Let me say it again. Shaykh, hal ajastana? Do you give us permission to get the ijazah? He said, Kaif? Say again.
Third time though.
It's the second time. So now, the uncle that was sitting with us has said to us, sorry to interrupt. Who do you guys think this is? We said, this is Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. He said, Jazakumullah khair. I know Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. This is not Shaykh Abdullah. This is Uncle Abu Yusuf.
Allahu Akbar.
Ammuna Abu Yusuf.
MashaAllah.
From the masjid, from the people that come to the masjid, that is hard-working, mashallah.
Allahu Akbar.
And the sheikh that we thought was the sheikh, his uncle now is Shaykh Abu Yusuf, Uncle Abu Yusuf, he still didn't understand what we were trying to do. So he said, do you guys have a need? Like, do you guys need money?
Subhanallah.
And he's about to get money. La, Jazakallah khair, we don't need money. Alhamdulillah, we didn't waste our time. We read hadith. And he's like, may Allah reward you guys for reading hadith, alhamdulillah. And he left. And the uncle said to us afterwards, who told you guys this is Shaykh Abdullah? And so we're like, Wallahi, we were told he prays in this masjid. We haven't seen his face before. I googled him. I googled the picture and this is what came up and we thought it was him. He said, I know Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud's children. Let me call one of the sons. So he said, come with me in the car. And the other brothers went in the car that we had. So I went in the car with him. And he collected something from home and he came back. And he's on the phone to Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud's son.
And he's telling the story probably.
And he's telling the stories. Like, there's some brothers, mashallah, they came from Medina. They drove all the way down. They were looking for your father. They saw, they were reading hadith to an uncle called Abu Yusuf and they thought it was your dad.
SubhanAllah.
The other guy on the phone, he's laughing. He's laughing his head off. And he even told me, show me the picture. So I showed him the picture and he goes, nah, I don't think this is him. This is not him. Who told you it's him? I said, look, it says Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. We found out there's another sheikh called Shaykh Abdullah al-Tuwayjiree. So that's where the mix-up came.
I just want to touch on
Riyadh.
Yeah, I was going to touch on how the uncle, the Shaykh Abu Yusuf, he was, happy to hear it.
He was happy to hear hadith, alhamdulillah.
SubhanAllah. And
alhamdulillah.
May Allah accept it. When somebody came and joined the gathering of knowledge.
Alhamdulillah.
And
look, the lesson learnt is, we tried, we didn't succeed in finding the Shaykh, but because at least we tried, this uncle that does know Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud has now come in, Allah has brought us to him, and now I'm sitting in his car and he's speaking to the son of Shaykh Abdullah Hamoud, and he's sorting out an actual sitting with the Shaykh.
So Shaykh, he told you now he knows his son, and he's given his son a call, and now inshallah he's trying to sort you out to maybe see the Shaykh.
Alhamdulillah, he said he's going to try to sort out a sitting with, he's on the phone sitting next to me trying to sort out a sitting. He ended up giving us the right location for where the Shaykh is at. and he told us that the Shaykh will be there on Friday praying Salatul Jum'ah. He will definitely be there for the Friday prayer. And so this was like, I think 2 days later. So we went nice and early. I think we went like a couple hours early to the Jum'ah. We got front row and we waited. This time we actually still don't know what the Shaykh looks like, remember? But they told us he is wearing this type of bisht and he should be coming in from that door or exiting that front door. And so we never saw him up until the Khatib came. The Khatib finished his khutbah. And then we saw a man that a lot of people giving salam to. So we figured that is probably the Shaykh. He went in, he was going out of the Imam's door. And so we asked permission to follow through and they gave us permission. So we went through into the room and the Shaykh was about to leave. And he spoke to us and we said, Shaykh, we came from Medina. There's like 5 of us. And we said, Shaykh, we wanted to read hadith to you. Want to read Kutub al-Atraf, Ahsan Allah ilayk, kada. Shaykh, he said in the nicest way possible, I'm sorry, but I don't do it like this. I don't do intikhab. I don't allow that. You just read a little bit and you get ijazah for the rest. I only do reading a whole book, cover to cover. Because I used to allow it, now I stopped doing it. So he kind of saw our faces down and so he said, but inshallah, I will give you al-hadith al-musalsal bil-awwaliyya. I will give you the first hadith that a person usually gets when they seek knowledge and they try to take ijazat from a shaykh. And it's called al-musalsal bil-awwaliyya. Basically, it's a hadith where the teacher narrates to the student and he says, this is the first hadith I heard from my teacher. And he says the same from his teacher, going all the way back to Sufyan. And then the silsila stops there, going back to the Prophet ﷺ. Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman. Those that show mercy, Allah Azza wa Jal, Ar-Rahman will show them mercy. Irhamu man fil ardi, yarhamkum or yarhamukum man fis sama. Have mercy upon those that are on the earth, and the one that is above the heavens will have mercy upon you. This hadith, he said, I will give this to you with ijazah. So he sat down, he narrated the hadith to us, going back to the Prophet ﷺ, and he told us. Then he gave us some advice, general advice on seeking knowledge, sticking to the sunnah, holding on to the sunnah. Important fatherly advice to students that he wanted to give sincere advice to. And alhamdulillah, we gained some benefit from the experience. And he gave us the number of a person. Now, if we do come next time, contact this doctor and he'll put you in a Telegram group. If there's anything that happens in the future, you can follow along. And if you come to the city, then you can try to call him and he could try to do tansiq of a majlis so that you can read a book from beginning to end. So that was a nice event, or funny story if you like, that occurred with the Shaykh. May Allah Azza wa Jalla bless him. He's still alive, still living in Riyadh. He does some lessons from time to time. So if you do hear of his lessons and you know Arabic and you're in the city or in the country, try to benefit from the Shaykh. The Shaykh has a good, nice isnad.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustad. Of course, many benefits in that. Of course, I think one of them could be double check the Shaykh that you go to that is the right person before you begin. But we ask a lot, etc., from you and the intention, that you and the brothers had when you was reciting to Abu Yusuf and
Uncle Abu Yusuf.
Yeah, Uncle Abu Yusuf. Did you by any chance narrate that story to the Shaykh when you told him?
We didn't get time.
You didn't get time. Yeah.
But the uncle that sat with us, he messaged me a couple months later and he checked up on us. He still got our number. Like, what was that uncle called again? Uncle Yusuf, right? Abu Yusuf. But mashallah.
Inshallah, the next Shaykh I want to move on to is a Shaykh from Riyadh as well, who's alive today, alhamdulillah, as well. Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr.
Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr, hafidhahullah wa ra'ah wa saddada khutah. He's from the greatest of scholars alive today when it comes to the field of fiqh. He is a faqihun usuli, and he specializes in the Hanbali fiqh. But he is muttali', he's got a lot of broad readings and ikhtisas and expertise in fiqh al-muqarana, which is comparative fiqh between all 4 madhahib. And he even taught not a couple years ago a book in fiqh al-Shafi'i and a lecture on Imam al-Shafi'i and the books of the Shafi'iyya. So he's got ikhtisas in more than one madhab. The first time I heard of the Shaykh was around 2019, roughly. And then after I heard that the Shaykh is doing a dawrah in Mecca. And he was teaching Manhaj al-Salikin from the beginning to the end in 1 week. And so this is a fiqh book written by Shaykh Abdurrahman Nasir al-Sa'di, the teacher of Ibn Uthaymeen. And it's a nice fiqh book, and it's good to start with. And it brings a little bit of evidences here and there. And it's mainly in the madhab of Imam Ahmed. And Shaykh Abdus-Salam mentioned that some of it is the riwayah thaniya, the second opinion in the madhab of Imam Ahmed. But it does not exit the madhab of Imam Ahmed. Ala kulli hal, we heard of this conference, so we traveled to it. That time, I was living with my family in Medina. So I took my family with me. We got somewhere to stay, and we attended the lectures from the beginning to majority of the end. Maybe we missed the first page or two because we were traveling from Medina, but then we caught the rest up until Kitab al-Fara'id, the chapter of inheritance, which is near the end. And then my grandma was in the next city in Jeddah, and I had to visit her. Allah yarhamha, she passed away. So I wasn't able to complete the book with the Shaykh, but I got up to Kitab al-Fara'id. The Shaykh, the first time I attended his lesson, really struck me. His teaching style, his tariqah, his tarkiz, and his quwwat al-tarh, how strong he is in presenting that opinion in a specific mas'ala. I remember, for example, the mas'ala of blood. Does blood invalidate a person's wudu or not? For many years, from the time I was in the UK and I studied with Shaykh Falah, al-fiqh, and he taught us that mas'ala, I was of the opinion that blood does not invalidate a person's wudu. And some of the athar mentioned from that, and Umar al-Khattab and the likes in no battle. But Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr, the way he was giving tarh and presenting the mas'ala and mentioning the exceptions that is accepted from that small amounts of blood or blood that occurs from war during battle, these are exceptions, but the general rule is a lot of blood breaks a person's wudu. And I changed my opinion on that because of that. And I held that it's invalid. And that happened a couple of times. And so ever since then, I tried my best to benefit from the Shaykh. Shaykh Abdus-Salam comes from a family of knowledge again, like the previous Shaykh. His father was Shaykh Mahamed al-Shuʿayr, Shaykh Mahamed bin Sa'd al-Shuʿayr, if I'm not incorrect. And the Shaykh was the chief editor of a magazine, a majalla, that was set up by Shaykh bin Baz. Shaykh bin Baz put him in charge of this new majalla, which is a journal of knowledge-based articles and the likes. He placed him in charge of it, Shaykh Mahamed bin Sa'd. And he was alive up until just a few years ago. He passed away, Allah yarhamhu. So his dad was a Shaykh involved in knowledge and was very close to Shaykh bin Baz. And he has two children, Shaykh Abdus-Salam and Shaykh Azzam al-Shuʿayr. Both of them are teachers and scholars. So Shaykh Azzam al-Shuʿayr teaches as well. And this is his brother Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr. Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr is the more famous of the two. Then he started coming to Medina a lot more often. He would teach different books in Medina, mainly fiqh books, or sometimes usul fiqh. And near the end, whilst I was there, he started Muwatta Malik by Imam Malik. And I was in Riyadh for 3 months as well, and he was teaching a book in the fiqh of Imam Ahmed as well, Kitab al-Iqna'. And his style is something that is different.
Does he teach in any of the universities, or is it just in the Haram? Or
I believe he teaches in the university as well. I believe he teaches in Imam Saud University, if I'm not mistaken. But his main focus and area of expertise is teaching fiqh specifically. He has other topics that he goes through sometimes, but mainly he's in fiqh, and he teaches in Medina monthly, and he teaches in Mecca as well seasonally. And he's still around and he's very active. He's got a weekly lesson in Riyadh I used to attend when I was there for the 3 months. And it's Allahumma barik. The way he breaks it down and makes you understand the mas'ala, bringing istidlal from the speech of the fuqaha, like he knows it like the back of his hand. I heard one of the students that was close to the Shaykh saying that the Shaykh mentioned he goes through a major book of fiqh, one of the great books of fiqh, at least once a year from cover to cover. That every year he has to go through a major book of fiqh from cover to cover. And he says, if I don't do this, then this fiqh will go away from.
That's a form of revision, I'm assuming.
Form of revision. It shows you that the importance of having a constant overlook and revision of the knowledge that you have learnt. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest scholar in the dunya, you have to revise your knowledge. This is what we see constantly in the tarajim and the biographies of the scholars. Imam Bukhari, and he is Imam Bukhari, he would revise atraf al-ahadith. They would revise the chains of narration in the beginning of the hadith with other students that were high-level memorizers. Imam Ahmed and I believe Abu Zur'a or Abu Hatim, I believe Abu Zur'a al-Razi. Zur'a al-Razi said to the son of Imam Ahmed, your father has memorized a million ahadith, alf hadith. He said, how do you know? How can you measure? He said, I revised with him 700,000 and he knows more. So revision is something that is yahtaj, that you require, whether you're a small student, a major student, and a great scholar.
I think it's easy to fall into the trap of once you learn a book and complete a book to just think, okay, I've learnt it now, and possibly not going back to it. What kind of incentives do you think, apart from what you just mentioned now, which is the stories of the scholars, that how they used to revise it, what other incentives can you think of that a student of knowledge might benefit from, that might make them return back to their notes, something they might have learned a year ago, 8 months ago?
Shuf, when you look at the whole purpose of revision, what's the thamara, the fruit of revision? Is to keep that knowledge there. Hayatul ilmi muraja'atuh. The life of giving life to knowledge is by a way of revision. وقد أثرت, there's many narrations from Ibn Abbas and others that mention this type of statement of revision is the life of knowledge. If you want knowledge to be present and to stay with you, you have to revise. If you don't revise, then knowledge is going to go away. And so it's mentioned by some of the scholars of the past, Man ahwaju nasi ila al-ilm. Who from the people requires knowledge the most to learn? Who? He said, al-ulama.
That's exactly like Shaykh Abdus-Salam, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Now. Every
Why?
year is rising.
And we was asked why. Because a khata and the mistake from them is afhash. If they make a mistake, it's worse than a beginner student. A beginner student can make a mistake and a third, and because he's still learning. This person is a scholar, he's a marja, he's a return point, people going back to him. People can't afford for him to make mistakes, even though it's human nature to, but you can minimize that by keeping your knowledge intact by revising constantly. What's the different ways of revision? Like we said, reading a book from cover to cover, especially the major books. Teaching is a form of revision because you have to do tahdeer, you have to prepare your lesson before you teach. Going and continuing seeking knowledge. All of that means to keep knowledge alive so that you can benefit from it. Shaykh Abdus-Salam al-Shuʿayr is one of the outstanding scholars that's alive today, and he's, alhamdulillah, he's not that old, and he gives a lot and he's consistent. So if a person is able to stick to him, especially if they live in the lands of Riyadh, the city that he teaches at, make sure you attend his lessons. You will benefit from his khuluq, his mannerisms, the way he carries himself, and his teaching style. And you'll go through a lot of books if you stick with him. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give him a long life and to allow us to benefit from his knowledge.
Allahumma ameen. Jazakallah khair for your time today, Ustad, and barakallah feek for the reminder of the two scholars that you mentioned.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.